let's jump into our topics. Larry, we're going to start with you. What did you bring to the table for us this week?
So I don't know if this qualifies as one of the biggest gaming news stories of the week, but
When
but for
does it
me,
ever, Larry?
and really connected to stuff from a decade ago. For me, I am super pumped because we are finally on the verge of the release of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. So I dropped a couple of videos into the notes, but I did drop them in kind of late. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to watch any of the gameplay or not. Did you get a chance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I scrubbed through. I watched quite a bit of the Game Informer one, and then I realized what was happening with the other one that you sent me, and I was like,
Yeah,
I ain't about to sit through this.
I watched all 15 minutes. So the other video I sent for those listening, it was a Smash Brothers style. Here's every character and every move they can do. So that was good. So yeah, I'm real pumped about this game. But just for context, have you guys played an Ultimate Alliance game? And if so, how do you feel about the franchise thus far?
I have not played a Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. I feel really good about the franchise.
Excellent, excellent.
There we go. I think I played the first one.
Yeah.
I like them for what they are, which is just kind of very arcadey, great games to play with your friends, like in very short portions.
Yeah.
That's how I enjoy them, at least. I know a lot of people are. I know people are very into them, and I'm sure people will be very into this one, especially because Marvel has kind of had a pretty good year so far, to say the least. But I enjoy them kind of how I enjoyed the old X-Men arcade game. I love playing it with people in the same room, just kind of mixing powers, hacking and slashing your way through enemies.
Yeah. So I played the first two back in college, which was it was those were great games to exist when I was in college because you just get a couple of guys on the hall to come in, and that's exactly what it is. It feels like I'm back in the arcade when I'm a kid, like trying to beat one of the X-Men games. And for me, like that's a blast. It's like one of my favorite things in gaming is couch co-op. And I often lament that there's not enough of it. So those games were always really fun. And they can be as simple or as complex as you want. You can just go through, beat them up, or you can like try to master the combos and the team synergies that you can put together. You can try to put together the perfect squad, that kind of thing. And so I appreciate that about them. The hunt for new costumes, that sort of thing. Um, so I guess my the direction I want to take the conversation is how do you think this game's going to do? Does it fit in this current landscape of gaming where couch co-op isn't really a big thing? And I'm also curious about how you feel about the decision to release this game so close to the Avengers game that's coming out soon. I felt like that was an interesting decision because these seem like very similar things to me.
Yeah, for me personally, I think that to Cody's point about like the Avengers are really hot right now. Like I think the time to have really maximized on this would have been around the same time that the movie came out, because I look at this gameplay and the gameplay doesn't blow me away. It's very, it's a beat 'em up style game. Like it doesn't look like it's super challenging. It's got a Disney Infinity-esque art style to it, and I think in a lot of ways that works against it. People will look at that, and I think that they probably have they draw assumptions about how that game is going to play if they're not familiar with the Marvel Ultimate Alliance. And this is coming from a guy who has never played one of the games. So watching that, all I could think about was Disney Infinity and how watered down that gameplay was. And that may or may not be how it actually is, but just aesthetically, that's what it reminded me of. But I don't think that people are looking at this and going to compare it directly to the Avengers. And I don't think the Avengers game that, Crystal Dynamics is working on. But and so I don't necessarily think they would cannibalize each other in any kind of way. I really think they're kind of in two separate leagues from one another. But if I was Marvel Ultimate Alliance, I would have wanted to release this around much closer to Endgame to kind of piggyback off of that, because that's striking while the iron's hot.
Yeah, I think the way I see it is, what is the release date for this game?
I think it's the 15th or the
Of
7th.
July.
Yeah. No.
Oh, Larry cut out. Are you there?
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you say July 15th?
It's July 19th.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess sort of the way I saw it was I think of it more in terms of capitalizing on the Marvel brand as a whole, because Marvel will not have another movie release for quite a while, at least in terms of their time, the schedule they've kept up. We had Avengers, would have been great to launch alongside that, would have been great, did not. But we just recently had Spider-Man last week. This will be launching next week. I think capitalizing on Marvel as a brand is not a bad way to go. I also think, to me, the audience for this game is not necessarily us.
Mm-hmm.
I do think this is a game that will certainly appeal to a lot of kids, and especially a lot of siblings. I would have loved to play a game like this with my brothers. I think there will be people like us too who will just buy it, pick it up, play it for a few hours, and then just kind of put it down. And it'll just sit in your library of Switch games. But I don't know. I do agree with Luke in that I think, both in terms of when they're releasing and the kind of games they are, I don't think that it'll be kind of cannibalizing the market with the Avengers game. We still haven't even seen gameplay of the Avengers, and from what people have said, it plays a lot more. It's a much more polished AAA experience, whereas this is much more of an arcadey thing. And I think there's space for both of those. I do sort of wonder whether this kind of game has a place in the landscape at large, but I think probably for the budget that was put into this, for the time that was put into this, it'll probably make its money back just off the Marvel and Avengers name alone.
Mm-hmm. I think I was just at GameStop here recently, like earlier this evening, and I think that I saw the Marvel Ultimate Alliance stuff being advertised in the Switch section, which seems to make a lot of sense.
It does.
Isn't it an exclusive?
Is it exclusive?
I thought it was.
It's been marketed almost solely on Switch.
Hold on, I'll look it up. You give your thoughts, Larry.
Okay. So yeah, I've got a little bit. It's just strange to me. I get that they're sort of different games, but it just seems strange to me to release this and the Avengers game, and especially with the storyline they've given this, where you're pursuing the Infinity Stones, you're trying to get those before Thanos gets them. It's just in a lot of ways, this game is more connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe than the Avengers game, and it's just really strange to me, is all. But by the same token, you've got a lot of non-Avengers characters, and they've on the fact that a lot of people have been introduced to alternate Spider-Man, Spider people through Into the Spider-Verse. You've got the Defenders showing up, and that's going to be fun. But I love the game. If you're into comics, if you're just a comic book nerd, like they are a blast. Just cheesy. You're gonna sit down and have some good comic book fun. But as far as the landscape, couch co-op's not a huge thing right now. But in spite of that, I think Switch is the way to go. Obviously, I could see firing this game up on a long van ride on one of my youth trips or whatever. I look forward to playing it with my family. I think this will be a fun first game to sit down and play with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an idiot. This is being published by Nintendo, and the only announced release date currently is for the Switch. So I apologize. This game is not even remotely on my radar. So
yeah, and I feel like that's probably true for a lot of people. As excited as I am for this game, I think it is just going to be a really niche thing. So yeah,
it has been getting a surprising. I don't know. It seems like it's got a probably because Nintendo's behind it, a pretty big marketing push. Like, it was on the cover of Game Informer a few months ago. it was a big. The trailer was a kind of a highlight at one of the shows recently. Maybe I don't. It wasn't. I don't think it was E3. It might have been the Game Awards or something. But it's
Yeah.
been highlighted several times. They're putting some money behind it, which is, I mean, indicative of maybe how much attention they think it needs. But I don't know. It seems like it might do better than a lot of people are assuming. And I do think it's also funny, like you said, that it is in some ways much more connected to the existing MCU as we know it. But that might be to a detriment considering that story is over at this point. We've seen that story and play out in the MCU.
That's true. This is a side point, not really important at all, but in the gameplay, I really love that Rocket and Groot are like one character.
Yeah.
That I found that very satisfying. So yeah, I don't know. I just for me, this is like the most exciting thing coming up, and I know that's probably not true for most people, but I can't wait to get my hands on this game. It's going to be the first time I buy a game on day one in a really long time, I think.
Oh wow, I've known Larry for years, Cody. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. Larry is not a first day. He's not a release date purchaser.
Well, I think that the nature of the game, the old school nature of the game, is part of the reason for it. I am confident, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is not how this is going to work. I am confident that I'm not going to buy just a flaming hunk of garbage that gets fixed in a patch 3 weeks later, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What,
I think
have you done
awesome.
that with a game recently? Is there a recent game that comes to mind that you bought that was not good, and then we talked about it for maybe 8-9 weeks straight?
I imagine the fallout from that decision would be terrible. I can't remember one.
Also foreshadowing a topic later.
Yes. We've been doing a lot of foreshadowing.
But I mean, I think to your point about the couch co-op thing not being as popular, just to kind of bring this back into maybe a broader conversation, like I do think that we are reaching a point where couch co-op is starting to enter more of the mainstream conversation again, like especially when you think about the features that were kind of highlighted during Google Stadia's presentation, and couch co-op seemed to be a really big thing of like, hey, with streaming, it allows you guys both to leverage all of the available power of the cloud without having to split it, which is a big reason that we saw a lot of games moving away from couch co-op this generation. Is just because developers weren't wanting to dedicate split resources to allowing two players to play on the same screen. And so I think we're about to move into a world in which Larry is very, very happy with and also Halo Infinite is confirmed to have split screen as well. So, and that was kind of the point where the conversation about what happened to couch co-op started this generation when Halo 5 released and there was no couch co-op.
That was devastating for me.
And Nintendo has reinvested in it too. I mean, it's a lot of its big first party games are by many people's estimations couch co-op experiences or couch multiplayer experiences. Even if people don't play them.
Yeah.
I just have one last thought on this game and how it's going to do. I think the last thing that'll really give this game a big push is it's kind of a dry season for the Switch. So this being a Switch exclusive, I think that it's as far as Nintendo goes, this is a great time to release this game.